Hi, good
You
evening,
can.
everybody. Okay, Chinigar, can I go ahead?
Yes, go, please.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Warm welcome to all of you. We are very, very grateful. So many of you present here today to attend the 5-week course. Rather, I would say you have decided to be in this journey of self-discovery. Thank you for joining. This is a 5 weeks of series, and this is second week. Last week we discussed about search for happiness. This week we will be discussing about does God exist. So, and this event is organized by WAMI USA, and I will give you a brief introduction of the discussion what we are going to have today. So we all are here because we want to get some answers of some of most important questions and things that matters in our life, questions we generally ignore or tend to ignore in our fast-paced life. Questions like, who am I? Why are we suffering? And why God is doing this? What is real happiness, etc. I am sure we all have these questions, especially during the difficult times. We all get these questions. We hope to discuss all these questions in next 4 weeks. The discussions are based on most trusted sources. This course is designed and completely based on ancient text Bhagavad Gita. This knowledge was spoken by directly by Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to his dearest friend and brother-in-law Arjuna. Arjuna was in very, very difficult situation. Then asked these questions to the Lord, and Lord answered him in a very practical and meaningful way. Bhagavad Gita was spoken 5,000 years ago, but still relevant today and will be centuries to come. Um, I personally feel Bhagavad Gita really changed my attitude, my life, and how I take things in life. Towards my graduation, I don't know what I studied, how much I remember, but when I went through the Bhagavad Gita, it taught me a lot. So Bhagavad Gita was referred by many of our historical leaders like Mahatma Gandhi and many, many more. And it is living manual for tens and thousands of people all over the world. People are striving for living their lives on the principles of Bhagavad Gita. This was a little introduction of course, and course facilitator will go more deep into this. Just want to give a brief introduction about the course facilitator. And I'm very happy to introduce you, Sivangi Syamaji, to all of you. Personally, she is a wonderful source of inspiration. She is very genuine and human being. She has most loved characteristics, compassion, and care for others, and that's why selflessly sharing this knowledge with all of us. This knowledge changed her life, and she wants to share with all of us. Professionally, Shivangi ji is highly educated woman. She has done masters in dentistry and also worked in many dental clinics and other corporate companies. She was born and raised in southern part of India. By Lord's grace, she came across Bhagavad Gita, which truly gave her a new life. And since then, she is living her life based on principles of Bhagavad Gita and also sharing it with others. With this being said, I would like to hand over to Shivangi ji for second session of 5 parts of this series. This series is called Discover Yourself. Thank you all very much for giving me this your precious time, and I hope you will all be different person after this course. Shivangi ji, please go ahead.
Welcome everyone. Nice to see you all for the second week session. So the second week would be about does God exist? So let me start with my prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Namo Vishnupadaya कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे रामा राम राम हरे हरे. Thank you all once again for joining this session. So let me share my screen and please let me know if you can see my presentation. Let's make it interactive like last time. So today's session would be like, does God exist? So let's have a small recap from last week's session, just to freshen up refresh our memory, as well as for the people who missed the last week's session, they can just have a summary. So last week's session was about search for happiness. So in that we saw what are the common things and what are the differences between human and animals, and how humans are special when compared to that of animals. So humans have the ability to inquire about the higher and the supreme truth. Then we looked into what are the relative problems, and once we tried to find solutions for the relative problem, we can get the relative happiness. But to get the real happiness, we have to solve the real problem. And we had seen like the 7 real problems in what we see, that is the birth, death, old age, disease, Adhyatmika Klesha, Adi Bhautika Klesha, and Adi Daivika Klesha. These are all kind of miseries and which we cannot, these are the real problems. So how can we get the real happiness? Because this world is dukkhalayam. This world is full of miseries. So how is it we can find happiness? We saw that. So we can find real happiness when we establish our relationship with our Supreme Father. That's how we can find. So now the question arises, okay? When we want to establish a relationship with Supreme Father and the Supreme God, does really God exist for us to, understand that? We would go through today's session. So today, I'll just be going through like what all we are going to look through today's topic, like to understand whether God exists, and if God exists, is it one or many gods? So we can try to understand about God by our own observation through the surrounding and what the scientists observed and how they concluded through their research about God. And once we know that God exists, what are the 3 ways that we can know about Him, and gain knowledge about God? And to gain that knowledge, we should have a proper real process. But we do have 4 defects which leads to imperfect knowledge. So we will see what are those 4 defects and what is the real process through which we can know completely get the complete knowledge about God, that is through Vedas. And why do we have so many different kind of religion, and who is God? So by observing the world in general, we can say the presence of, we can see and we can know that there is someone who is supremely intelligent behind all this. So let's first dive into the first topic, that is how we can understand the presence of God by observing the surroundings. So in one point of time, at least, we would have all seen like something very beautiful and wonderful, astonishing. And we would see like, how is this so beautiful? How is this so wonderful? There is someone behind this who has created this. We would have got that thought, who did this? How did this happen? So similarly, through our observation, like for example, if we see an artistry, we would immediately, our question would be, who is that artist who did this wonderful? And if we see some kind of creation, we would ask, who created this? Who did this? And some kind of design, then we ask, oh, who is the designer for this wonderful design? And if we see the laws which are made and we ask who made these laws, who is the lawmaker? So these are few things by which we can understand the presence of the God. So let's see the first example. As we all know, I think most of us would have visited this. This is Niagara Falls picture. So this picture shows, when we would have seen the real falls, we would have seen like the water, just so much of water with so much of force just pouring down, and that's a beautiful sight. At least one, we would have thought like, who has done this wonderful thing in this and this beautiful nature? How is this? Who is this? And we come across so many beautiful flowers in our life. So for example, if you see this flower, see how beautifully it's designed. It has such beautiful delicate petals and the color and the elegant designing. So who has created this? We should think, when we deeply think about that, we would know like what is behind all this. It cannot just happen, right? Everything has when we think everything has some kind of creator, even these would have some kind of creator behind this. So in our childhood days, we would have seen like many of us would have made this paper rose, either as a school project, or we would help our children now, to make this project. So what we need to make an artificial rose, we need color papers like scissors. We procure all the materials, the glue, the scissors, all that. And we have not only the material we have to procure, but we have to invest the time and we have to invest our energy. All these together, we can make one rose. So just to make one paper or the plastic rose, we invest so much of time, energy, and our all the materials, right? But when you see the real rose, we have to think, really think behind like, who made this real rose? How is this complexity in that structure and the shape and the form, and the color? So, for example, like how does these flowers come? How does these grow? So when we plant a seed, then it grows into a plant, and then we get the flower. So it takes few days to appear. But seed by itself is not fragrant. But when we get a flower, but definitely it has a beautiful fragrance, right? So the but for example, if what we are making now, the paper flower, do you think that we can add fragrance? We can only add fragrance artificially. But the real flowers have their own natural fragrance. Who made those? We should question. So when we see all these different types around us in the world, we have to think, who is that artist who has created that? Likewise, even nowadays, we see a lot of things which have been created, wonderful things. Like when we come across a car, and we tend to ask, everyone tend to ask, like, oh wow, this is a beautiful car. What brand is this? Is it a new car? Who manufactured it? We inquire, right? And if we see trendy computers or laptops, we try to ask this question: who assembled it? Which company is that? And if you see similarly a watch, we ask like, who designed it? Which designer collection this belongs to? Like different kinds of marvels, buildings, skyscraper buildings, and architectural uh, buildings, as well as sculptures. Who carved this? Who built this? These are our questions, right? Then should we not ask, when we see this big universe created, who is that super intelligent designer or the creator, right? We should have that question. So every creation in this world has a creator, and similarly, there is a creator for this universe. Before I go into this satellite exam, this is an analogy I'm going to explain for us to, even more clearly understand the presence of God. I would like to explain an interesting fact. A lot of scientists came together and they researched, and they came to a conclusion that the human brain can store information almost almost the information which is present when we compare all the libraries, the information present in all the libraries that's present in our brain. And they have even concluded that the mind can process 50,000 thoughts per day. So, how is this possible? Such a small brain, we can store so much of information and such a complex design, and it's so perfectly designed, right? We should get that thought. Like, in this way, also, we can understand the presence of God. So, this is a satellite. So, to launch a satellite, these are a group of people, the panel of people, they sit together and they continuously monitor the satellite when they launch it, and they monitor the parameters. There are a few parameters which they monitor. What are the, let's see what parameters they, each one will be assigned one kind of parameter, like the orientation, the velocity, the heat dissipation, then the distance between the earth and satellite, and the spin. So these are different kind of parameters. So to launch one satellite, you see so many people. This is a satellite control room. So many people are sitting and working throughout day and night to, control that satellite. Just imagine our Earth, it weighs 6 into 10 to the power of 21 metric tons. But still, you know it clear it you know it actually goes around the sun on its axis perfectly. So we should compare, like, when one satellite, to launch one satellite, so many people have to monitor and everything should be carefully maintained. But our earth is on its axis going around the sun. How is this possible? Not only our earth, when you see other planets, going around its axis, it's all perfectly designed. And the scientists have mentioned even that when if the earth just moves forward towards the sun from its axis, it would just burn because of the heat waves. And if this earth by chance or something happens and it moves away from its axis, away from the sun, farther behind, then it will freeze. So it's so delicately designed and perfectly designed. So who actually controls all this? Does it all done by like the NASA? No, it is like how it's perfectly like a traffic controlling. You can take an example. We can understand, like, there is too much of traffic. We try to, the traffic police comes and tries to signal and try to control the traffic. But do you think like the planets also should have some kind of control in the same way to follow one particular traffic, right? So this design is done by a perfect designer. So this way also we can understand the presence of God. In childhood, we would have seen, we would have read about chemistry, right? This is a periodic table which shows all the elements. So we can consider, like, the elements have certain properties, and because of that properties, they can be only used with particular combination. If we mix up two non-different, I would not say non-different, which will not go together, two chemicals, if we try to mix, it may either give no reaction or it may even burst up, right? So this is, how is this possible? Because it's maintained by a periodic law. We know how to deal with these chemicals. Similarly, there are laws in physics too. Like these laws existed even before the scientist had found it, like the law of gravity. This would not the scientists have just found it out. They have not created these laws, but these laws actually existed before this too. And if you see, like, this is a law of refraction and reflection, which comes under the law of optics. We have different laws. They say law of thermodynamics, in which the heat energy will be converted into the light energy would be converted into the heat energy, and heat energy vice versa. They use it in different ways. So when all these laws are present, we should understand there is a lawmaker. Like how, if we have some kind of law, we would ask who created this law. It is by the, if we say it's by the government, we would definitely follow. And if we say no, it was given by some kind of individual, we would say no, we will not follow, right? So there is a lawmaker behind all these laws too. So this also explains the presence of a supreme power. So in this world, we see some are beautiful, some are like, ugly, some are like handsome, some are physically handicapped, not handsome too, and some are rich and poverty stricken and highly qualified professionals, and few are like laborers. Who decides this? Like there is all these kind of variation in people. Who decides this? So do we ourselves choose that we should be beautiful, or we should be kind of, highly educated, or we should be rich? Do we choose that? No, we can only choose what kind of education we get, nor what type of job we want to get into, or we can choose like our husband or wife. We have the right to choose that, and we can, even choose and buy, what car we want to and the house. But there are few things which we don't choose. One of it is like our parents. We cannot choose our parents, right? We cannot say, I want this parent, I want only these parents. No, the parents have been decided. And even similarly, even the face shapes, whether do you want a long face, square face, round face, this has already been destined. We don't decide it. We don't, I want this. We don't ask, or we don't get that. So these are like, we don't choose it. And even our intelligent, some may be very intelligent, some they are like, they are not intelligent. We would have seen even in our school days and college. Who chooses this? And how does, who decides all this? Like this person should get this, and this person should get. Is this all by chance? When we say these laws, are not by chance, there is some kind of lawmaker, because all these are well defined laws, right? Similarly, there should be some kind of law even for this birth, beauty, intelligence, all this. How can it happen by chance, right? By chance means, in mathematics we would have seen, we would say chance means probability, right? Probability is like when we count the number of occurrences and which has the maximum occurrence, we say it is most probably done by this. That is like meant by chance. So some may say that this world appeared by chance. So did it occur many times and then we concluded it is by chance? No. So all this is decided, how a person should appear, how they should, how they should be in this lifetime. It's all by the universal law of karma. That's what decides how a person should look, what a person does, how he is, right? So in Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a verse which describes about this. Karmana deva netrena janturdehopapatyate striya pravishta udaram pumsoreta kanashrayah. So in this verse, karmana means activities. So devanetrena is under the supervision of the Supreme God. Jantur means living entities. Deho papatyate means it is the bodies which these living entities attain. So karmana devanetrena jantur deho papatyate means by the activities under the supervision of the Supreme God, these living entities would gain the particular bodies. How is this? By striya pravishta udaram pumso reta kanashraya means, how is this possible? In the womb, by the injection of the semen into the womb, the soul gets that particular body through the activities which was performed in their previous birth. So all these law of karma, all these laws of physics, everything has a lawmaker. So when we understand there is law, we can understand there is a lawmaker, and we can understand the presence of the Supreme Lord. So we have come to a conclusion of the first topic, like how we can understand the presence of God through understanding the surroundings and by understanding the different laws and the lawmaker. Now let's go into the second one for today. So what is that? How the scientists research, different scientists, and how they came to a conclusion. So once there was a conference in which 88 scientists came together, and they had discussed, they wanted to assess whether how they perceive God in their own way of research. So they wanted to understand it from each one. So everybody came together and had a conference. In that, they discussed how each scientist, kind of understand their through their research. So first, let's see. We know he's a famous scientist, Albert Einstein. He mentioned that there is a perfect brain behind all the natural physical laws. So there is some perfect brain, because all this cannot just happen. And Lord Kelvin had mentioned that he strongly feel, if you really think strongly, there is, you will be forced by the science to believe in God. And next, he is one of the famous scientists, Isaac Newton. So once Isaac Newton had created the simulation of the solar system and put it on his table, which had a lever underneath the table. And his friend had come to visit Newton. So that morning when he came, so that time his friend came and he saw on the table the simulation, and the lever was like switched on, and then so he saw like the simulation of solar system, and he was like, oh wow, he was so surprised. How is this possible? Such a beautiful simulation of the whole solar system. Who did this? How did this happen? He started asking Isaac Newton. And Isaac Newton simply said that, yeah, even I have wondered the same, because I went out and came back and saw all of a sudden this had appeared on my table. Then his friend was like, kind of, he was repeatedly asking, how is that possible? It's not possible. There should be someone who created. Tell me who did this. So then his friend and Isaac Newton had conversation back and forth. And finally his friend got angry and told, now let me know who did this model. Then Isaac Newton, because he was one of the atheists, so Isaac Newton wanted to, tell him what is the reality. So then his friend got angry, and then Isaac Newton then revealed that this was made by me. So this simulation of solar system, you're not able to accept that it just appeared on my table. You're not able to accept that. Then how do you think this whole universe just appeared without any perfect designing? We have to deeply think, right? And he quoted this most beautiful system of the suns and planets and comets could only proceed from the counsel and dominion of an intelligence. So there is someone powerful. The powerful being is there who governs all this, not only as the soul of the world, but Lord over all. He is to be called the Lord God, the universal ruler. So he concluded this way. And Max Born is one of the great chemists. He has researched a lot about the atom. So when he, saw an atom, he told that this is the key to the deepest secret of nature, that it gives me the greatness of the creator as well as the creation. So that's how he described in his words about the supreme being. And he is one of the Indian mathematician, Srinivasa Ramanuja. He tells that in his equation, for him, the equation means only when he has the thought of God. He tells like, an equation for me has no meaning unless it represents a thought of God. So Werner Heisenberg, he also told there is a higher power not influenced by our wishes, but which finally gives us the decision. That's the one which decides and judges. And Michael Faraday had described that we ought to value the privilege of knowing God's truth far behind anything we can have in this world. That is the maximum truth, and that is what we have to search for. The inquiry about God and who is God, the truth about God. So, this way, all the 88 scientists, when they met, they concluded. So, if you want more information about this, they wrote a book which is about the God and expansion of the universe. So, you can get more information on that. So, today we didn't have quiz since starting. Let's have some quiz time. Please open your chat boxes. Be ready for the quiz. So, what is the origin of the universe? A. Big Bang, B. Big Bang, intelligent design, or just by chance? Please type in your answers in the chat box. Okay, I see. Few telling intelligent design, excellent, perfect answers, and few telling Big Bang theory. Okay, okay. So let me explain about uh, Big Bang 2 here. Yes. So nice. Thank you. Thank you for your responses. So, Big Bang Theory. As we all have learned in science, that these planets and the universe all appeared only because of the Big Bang Theory. Like in common words, what does it mean? Big Bang. So, there were two masses out of nowhere, because initially they had told there is nothing in this universe, but all of a sudden the two masses appeared and they just banged together, and then all these planets appeared. That's Big Bang theory, right? Now my question for that would be, is so can we do the same thing and create a small village and we can name it as small Big Bang theory, small bang theory? Can we just collide two masses and make a small village? No, it's not possible. How did those masses appear? Where did it origin? This theory was proven wrong, and it has been given in Britannica of books encyclopedia. In that book, it's mentioned like how it failed. Many researchers have seen and told that Big Bang has failed. It's no more accepted. So the correct answer for the origin of the universe is someone who has designed it intelligently, right? So next question would be, what is its purpose? Okay, this has been designed. What is its purpose? Either to eat, sleep, and be happy, or kabhi kushi kabhi gum, no purpose, or to understand God and life. Perfect answers. Wonderful, perfect answers. Almost everybody answered right. So it's to understand the God and life. So our purpose is to, all this has been created and given to us. Our purpose here is to understand deeply about God and utilize this lifetime. Last time Chinigaru had asked a question. What is the difference between joy and happiness? So if we try to understand God, we when we get that, it is the eternal happiness. It is the real happiness. But joy is limited. We only get joy in a limited way. It is not unlimited. So when we try to understand about the unlimited God, we get the unlimited happiness. So the right answer is D, to understand God and life. So let's try to compare, by seeing how to understand the universal government by comparing to our government in our country. Okay, so we have various different departments which the government runs, like the Home Ministry. So the Home Ministry is the one which takes care of law and order. So if someone follows the law, they will be happy, right? And if someone breaks the law and breaks the rules, they would, kind of suffer. They won't be happy. They will be punished. Similarly, the universal government has given us certain laws to be followed, like no smoking, no drinking, no illicit sex. So if we do not follow that, we would end up getting health issues like cancer, liver problem, and AIDS. Next is the health ministry. Health ministry, what do we know? The government which runs is like they have the primary health centers, the public hospitals, the government hospitals and the medications they give, doctors, facility, all that. And we have the universal government which gave us the Ayurvedic herbs which can cure many diseases. And then the Ministry of Energy is one which takes care about the electricity and the lighting, all supply, power supply. They convert the water energy and then give it as electricity, solar energy, all that. And the universal government has given us the sun and moon, which gives you natural sunlight and the moonlight. Next is the finance ministry. So what do we know about finance ministry? They are the one who gives us the budget, and they maintain the economy, currency and the wealth of the country. The universal government has given us the gold, silver, navaratna, and diamonds, which are all naturally found in this earth. And the defense ministry is the one which protects us from all kinds of dangers from all directions, right? So similarly, we have the universal government which gave us the ozonosphere and the immunity. So just imagine if we did not have the ozonosphere covered on our earth, we would just get directly exposed to the ultraviolet rays, the UV rays. So because of that, there can be a lot of health issues, lot of multiple types of cancers, right? And immunity, we all now know how important the immunity is, but this body already had natural immunity. But now after corona, we all we want to grow even more immune. I mean, we want to become stronger with immune system, right? And then the government gives us, the education ministry in the government gives us like the education, the public schools, and the colleges. Whereas the universal government has given us education through Vedas, Bible, and Quran. So that way we can really get educated and know about God. So behind every government, there is a prime minister who actually, takes care of this government. Similarly, behind the universal government, there is the God. And prime minister is the one who, controls the whole country and he maintains the country, right? We cannot say we won't follow the prime minister or president's rule. We have to, right? Similarly, God is the one who maintains the universal government, and he's the one who controls the whole universe. And government, I already explained this, like one who follows the government laws will be happy. If he doesn't, he'll be unhappy and he'll be punished. Similarly, one who abides to God's law will be happy and prosperous and healthy. But one who tries to break the God's law would suffer eventually. So now we saw there is presence of God. And we tried to understand how we can, and we saw like how what scientists had observed and mentioned about the presence of God, and what are the differences between the universal government and the our government of the country. Now, how can we understand God? We know there is presence of God, but now how can we understand God? There are three ways in which we can understand attain knowledge, perfect knowledge about God. So first is Pratyaksha Praman, second is Anuman Praman, and Shabda Praman. So let's jump into the Pratyaksha Praman first. Pratyaksha Praman means which we can see and then we conclude it. Okay, so I'll just describe you an analogy, a story. So there were 6 blind men who they're blind, so they cannot see, and a wise person who can see. So the wise person had just asked them, you just go touch the elephant and describe about the elephant. So the 6 men went in a different direction. One touched the tail and told, this is like a rope. Elephant is a rope then. And another touched the ears, and then another man told, it's like an axe. And another touched the body, and he told, it's like a wall. So different people had different interpretation because they couldn't see the real truth. So the wise person is the one who can see the real truth and at the same time explain how the elephant looks actually. So this is another example here. So what we can observe here, there is railway tracks. But when we see at the end, it's like they meet at the end, right? But in reality, the railway tracks do not meet. Both the tracks are always parallel. But to our eyes, it appears as if it is meeting. So it is our perception by our eyes. Next is see the pencil which is inside the water. It appears like it's broken, but this is the law of refraction. When it's underwater, it appears like it's broken, but it's in reality it's not broken. And mirage, most of us would have seen this on the road. It appears like as if there is water, but in reality there is no water. And in the mirror, there you can see different kinds of distorted reflections, sometimes like elongated, so is our seeing right? Is our eyes telling right? Is our eyes perception, is it right? No, we cannot see the truth, complete truth, with this eyes, because these are material senses. So the eyes or the ears cannot get the complete knowledge of anything. And usually many people would say like, oh, I cannot believe in God. Only if I see him, I can say there is God. So, but with this imperfect eyes and ears, how can we see the unlimited God? Right? We cannot directly see him with these kind of ears and eyes. So we do have 4 defects. What are those? So the imperfect senses, like how we saw, like we have imperfect eye vision, right? Sometimes we may see which is not there, we may see as if it is there, it is present, like illusion. And our ears can only hear, there is a limitation in all the senses. Our ears can hear only sound between 20 to 20,000 hertz. Either below that, our ears cannot perceive, and more than that, our ears cannot perceive. Then how can we, kind of understand God through this imperfect senses and come to a conclusion? No, we cannot. So in this picture, you can see there is a bottle which is coming out of the truck. So, but in reality, it doesn't appear that way. It's just, it gives that look, the way we see. So this way we are illusion. Illusion means which is not present, but we think it is present. I would go in detail. I'll give you some more examples. Just I'm giving you a brief introduction about our 4 defects. So then, because of illusion, we tend to commit mistakes because we are not having a clear vision. And then the last one would be, because of committing mistake, we try to hide it, and we don't want to be a fool in front of everybody, so we try to develop the cheating propensity. So these are the 4 defects which humans have, and with this knowledge, how can we say there is no God? There is no God. How can we come to a conclusion with this senses, right? We should think about it. So now just get into your chat box. What do you see in this picture? Just briefly describe what you see in this picture. ships, okay, boat, okay, boat and wall, wonderful, bridge, yes. So if you see in this itself, we have different kind of interpretation about this picture. So different people have different perception in looking, like few say that is ship, few say it's a boat, few say it's a bridge, and others are saying it's a wall. So how can we come to a conclusion when we do not have the perfect perfect answer for this, right? Let me show you another picture. So just look at that dot, just move forward and backward, and let me know what you're seeing when you do that. Do it couple of times, like move forward and backward, and tell me what is happening when you do that. The circle is moving. Excellent. Both the rings are rotating. Yes, you're right. Because the circles are not moving. Nothing is moving. It's just because of your perception, because you're moving back and forward. That is actually still, but it appears to be moving. So this is illusion. Let's see a few examples for how we commit mistakes. In a research they came to a conclusion earlier that pituitary gland is one of the vestigial organ. Vestigial organ means it's of no use in our body. Earlier they had concluded that way, but in reality pituitary gland is the one which helps us and which controls all the hormones in our body. It is not a vestigial organ. Then they came to know that. Just imagine if they, because of that mistake they committed and they remove the pituitary gland, it would have caused a lot of problems, because that's the gland which controls the adrenal glands, thyroid glands, all the glands in our body. So that's a big mistake, right? What would happen if we do such mistakes? There will be large disasters. And so what all we saw, we have like 4 defects in our body. One is like the imperfect senses. Because of those, we get illusioned. And then, because of the illusion, we think that is right and we commit mistakes. And finally, because we commit mistakes, we try to, hide those mistakes and make, cheat. We develop the cheating propensity. So, Pratyaksha Praman, that's not the right way to, understand God or see God. So, what is the next one? It is Anuman Praman. This is like asking, sometimes this may be this, or this may not be this, and we come to a conclusion. That's why it's not this, just by our observation. The perfect example would be like Darwin's theory. So Darwin's theory, he had researched a lot and he had mentioned like from the unicellular, multicellular organism came, and from multicellular various grades of animals came, and then from monkeys human evolved. So that was the theory he had given. But at the end of Darwin's life itself, other researchers had come to a conclusion that no, humans, and it was wrong. The theory which he gave is like wrong. The humans did not come from the monkeys. The humans and apes had lived together millions of years ago. So when we try to speculate, we may not be right? Because of our speculation, this may be right, this may be wrong, this may be right, that may be wrong, this may be right. We just come to a conclusion, but we cannot come to a proper and perfect conclusion by speculating. So the correct and the right process will be Shabda Praman. Shabda Praman is by direct hearing. So in Bhagavad Gita, it is mentioned that Krishna had mentioned, Evam Parampara Praptam Imam Raja Rishayo Viduhu. In this, he tells that the perfect knowledge can be attained through a parampara. So what do we understand by the word parampara? Parampara, we all have heard about this word. Like, we would say, like, if we know something and if someone asks, how do you know this? We tell, my father had told me. And if we ask father, he would say, my father had told me. So it's like in a succession, like in a disciplined succession. So let's try to understand with another example. How can a child know who is his father? If he wants to know who is his father, how can he know? So if he thinks like, okay, let me check all the genes throughout the world from all the fathers, and then I will come to a conclusion that he is my father. Is that possible in any way? No, because to check the genetical identification for 200 men itself would take 800 years. And our lifespan is not more like around 60 to 70 years, right? Now the average lifespan has come down to 60 to 70 years. Then how can we identify? If we say we want to only go through medical tests and identify who is my father, that's not the right way we are looking at. So, what is the simple and the best way he can find out who is his father? He can just go to his mother and ask who is his father, because mother is the one who can authentically tell this is your father, right? So that is the right source, right knowledge we can get from mother. Similarly, Vedas is our mother and God is our supreme father. So to know about the supreme father, we have to go through Vedas to know. And Vedas not only give us only God knowledge, but it gives us even the general knowledge. So in ISKCON is International Society for Krishna Consciousness. They come in the Brahma Sampradaya. So this knowledge was given from Supreme God to Brahma, and Brahma had given it to Narada Muni, and eventually we follow the 32nd Guru, who is His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So there are 4 authentic sampradayas. One is Brahma Sampradaya, Rudra Sampradaya, Shri Sampradaya, and Nambarka Sampradaya. All these have evolved in that disciplic succession. So that is the right way of learning. And Vyasadev, who was present 5000 years ago, he had given Vedas because he knew, he could predict and tell that people in Kali Yuga have very less memory power. So they cannot remember all these facts. So we have to compile, I need to write it. So he wrote the Vedas 5000 years ago. So when we come, like why I told about parampara, for example, let's take like if you want to join a college, we would always think, okay, is this college right? We would go inquire about the college, and then we would see any seniors who have come out, have they got jobs, have they been placed, and is the college run by a proper head, and all the professors are well educated, and do they really care about their students, and will they get ranks? All this we inquire. The professors here are considered like guru, right? And the books are the Vedic test or Bhagavad Gita. That's how like college can be compared to the sampradaya we follow, and the professors is the guru, and authorized book is the Bhagavad Gita or the any Vedic test. So next, so how do we know Vedas. Okay, Vedas have been given 5. How do we know this is the perfect knowledge? How can we understand that? So 5000 years ago itself, it was mentioned that Bhugal has Saptodvip, which means Bhugol. Bhugol means, Bhu means the earth, Gol means it's in round shape, and Saptadvip means it has 7 islands. So this has been described in Vedas 5000 years ago. This is one of the proof. But now we believe that because Columbus had gone all around the world and declared that he has found 7 islands, and even America has been found, he had to travel or other one. But this information is already present 5000 years ago in the Vedic texts. And nowadays they have researched and found that cow dung has antiseptic properties, and it can produce biogas, and it's a very wonderful thing. But this was also described, all these properties were already described. And human embryology, like what happens, how much is the growth, like 1 month, what is the growth, second month, what is the growth, and even now we see Vedic math. So all this is from our Vedas. Other predictions would be like the Buddhism appeared like few years ago, right? But this was being described in Srimad Bhagavatam. The Buddha would arrive and Buddhism would be there. This was described 5,000 years ago itself. Similarly, Chanakya would bring about the Jainism and the appearance of Chandragupta Maurya and King Ashoka, which we read in history, right? This was all described back, years ago. So Jesus Christ, even about the presence, the appearance of Jesus Christ was described in Bhavishya Purana, as well as Muhammad was also described in Bhavishya Purana and Atharva Veda. And about Kali Yuga, how people in the Kali Yuga will be, and how the men would wear, like the women would wear the men's clothes, and how they would be. All these predictions have already been given in about Kali Yuga already back in years ago. So, how now we know the perfect knowledge, right? But how to understand? Because there are so many religions, how would we know whether there's one God or so many gods? Which religion to follow? So, even though there are many religions, all the religion would give us the same principle about God. First thing is you have to approach a guru, spiritual master. And then he's the one who gives us the love of Godhead. And we have to follow all the God's laws, as well as we have to serve so that we can return back to the kingdom of God. And we should glorify the holy name of the God, and we should not commit any more sins. With little sacrifice of these material pleasures, we can attain. All these principles have been given in all the religions. So, the Vedas is one which the Dharma is Sanatan Dharma, where Vedas belong to. So, let's try to understand which to, see which came in first and which came in last. So, about Islamic prediction, everything happened only 1300 years ago. Then Christianity appeared 2000 years ago, and Buddhism appeared 2500 years ago. But if you see Sanatan Dharma, Vedas, and Bhagavad Gita, which Krishna spoke to Arjuna, had appeared 5000 years ago. Right? We have to see from where it had come and when it had come. So all the Dharma all the principles, all the religions tell the same, but the time period alone changes. And the amount of the information, few have told limited information, but few have given us the vast information. Let's see that too. So now let's have a comparison between Sanatan Dharma and Islam. So there are common similarities. That is, Sanatan Dharma, it's called as Hinduism, and Islam it's called Quran. And the soul, we call it as, in Sanatan Dharma, it is told as Jiva. Whereas in Islam, they call it as Ruhu. Similarly, spiritual is Chit, and in Islam, it is Mujarrad. All these words are there in both the Sanatan Dharma and Islam. And then if you see conditioned soul, it is Bada Jiva and Ruhu Tarkibi. And ignorance is Mala and Mala fourth. And spiritual world is called Paravyoma Alam Alal Mashal. And love of God is Prema, and in Islam it is called Ishq. So all these are common words. They also have the same words, and we also. It's just in different religion we call it in different ways. God is called Ishwar, and here Islam they call Khoda. Next, let's see the similarities between Sanatan Dharma and Christianity. So, in Sanatan Dharma, it was in Bhagavad Gita, it is mentioned that abode of mine is illumined by sun and moon, and it's not illumined by sun and moon, nor by electricity. One who reaches it never returns to this material world. And there is something which is shining and always illumined. Similarly, but in Christianity, it is mentioned in the Bible that, and there shall be no night there, and they need no candle, neither light of the sun. For the Lord God give them light, and they shall reign forever and ever. Then Bhagavad Gita it is given that I shall never now declare unto you in full this knowledge, both material and spiritual. By knowing this, there shall remain nothing further to be known. in Bible it is mentioned that there is much that I have to tell. In the sense, there is some other world, the spiritual world, but you cannot bear it now. That's why he didn't reveal it, Jesus Christ. So finally concluding, it is like it has different religion, but it gives the same meaning. So how can we understand? Like we can give a comparison of Chambers Dictionary and the Pocket Dictionary. So Pocket Dictionary has the same information as the Chambers Dictionary, but Pocket Dictionary is limited, whereas Chambers Dictionary is, we have vast variety and huge knowledge in that. Now we know how to attain the process of God, and we know one or many gods. Now let's jump into who is God. So we should know who is God. We cannot believe everybody is God. Nowadays we see a lot of people coming in, I'm God, but we cannot believe them. How would we know? What is the real definition of God? So it is Janmadi Asya Yataha. In the sense, God is the one from which everything emanates. He is the source for everything. And he does not appear from anything. Okay, so that is the definition. So if we come across someone and if they say they are God, we can just ask, like, did you appear from someone, or you appear? You know, that would be a simple definition of God. There's and if you add more, he's the supreme controller, he's the supreme proprietor, because he's the one, he's the owner of whole universe, and he's the supreme enjoyer. He's the one who actually controls and enjoys. So in we can even understand, like in Bible, Jesus says he's son of God. He doesn't say he's God, right? And in Quran, Muhammad calls himself as prophet of God. But in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says Aham Bija Pita, matlab he is the God. From him everything has emanated, because he himself declares that he is the God. Let's see like how we can derive the words. How did it come? So Christ comes from the Greek word Christos, and Christos is the Greek version of the word Kanaya, and Kanaya is a Sanskrit word which means object of attraction. So Christ or Kona or Kanaya, all this indicate it is all attractive God. So the God is object of attraction. So we have come to the conclusion of our week 2 session. So we saw like how we can understand the presence of God by observation of our surroundings, and what the scientists had concluded through their experiments, like whether to believe God or there is any supreme power we had seen. And then if we know the presence of God, how can we get the perfect knowledge? What are the ways we can see? And what is the real way and the proper process is the Shabda Praman. And next, what are the 4 defects which leads us to get imperfect knowledge? And then what is the perfect process to get the complete knowledge? It's through Vedas. And we saw like why do we have so many religions, and if there are many religions, who is the real God? So thank you so much. I hand over back to Lakshman.
Yeah.
And thank you so much everyone for patiently hearing, and see you next
Thank
week.
you. Yeah, thank you so much, Nangiji, for a very detailed and beautiful explanation whether God exists, and it's very, very convincing way how easily people can understand the whether God exists. So I appreciate that, and also not only that with the quiz, also you make more interesting with the quiz for the people is more interesting. Thank you very much, and also comparison of the religion without making any negative reference, but very beautifully explaining the comparison of the religions and God is really fantastic. Thank you for your time. Appreciate all the wisdom, knowledge you have given to all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Samaji.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone.